Right now, as you watch this video, another ski shop in the Austrian Alps is shutting down forever. Last year alone, 15 family-run ski businesses closed their doors after serving tourists for 3 generations. The snow that once covered our mountains for 6 months now barely lasts 4. This is the story of a crisis that's silently killing Austria's mountain economy. Think about this. Every third euro in Austria's pocket comes from these mountains. Our Alps aren't just pretty peaks. They're the reason why 200,000 people have jobs, why 2,000 ski lifts run each winter, and why millions of tourists spend their money here. For years, Austria has been the world's #1 ski destination, attracting more winter tourists than even Switzerland or France. Remember those picture-perfect postcards of Austrian ski villages? They show happy tourists, cozy mountain huts, and endless white slopes. But today, the real picture is different. Mountain hotels that were full for decades now struggle to fill even half their rooms. Young people are leaving their mountain homes because they can't make a living anymore. In just 10 years, 25% of small mountain businesses have disappeared. The numbers tell a scary truth. Austria's alpine tourism brings in 50 billion euros every year. That's enough money to build 100 hospitals. But this money is now at risk. Our mountains are facing their biggest challenge ever, and most people don't even know about it. This is the story of how Austria's alpine economy is quietly crumbling and why it matters to everyone, not just those who live in the mountains. Let's go back to the 1950s when Austria's mountain miracle began. After World War II, our mountain villages were poor and farmers could barely feed their families. But then something amazing happened. Skiing became popular and it changed everything. In 1955, Austria built its first major cable car in Kitzbühel. It cost as much as 50 houses back then, but it paid off big time. Tourists loved it so much that within just 5 years, we built 100 more cable cars. The 1960s and 1970s were like a gold rush in the Alps. Every small mountain village wanted its own ski lift. Farmers who once struggled to sell milk and cheese suddenly found a new way to make money by turning their barns into guest houses. The 1980s and 1990s were the real golden years. Tourist numbers exploded from 5 million yearly visitors in 1970 to over 20 million by 1995. Small villages like Solden, which once had just 500 people, built enough hotels to host 15,000 tourists every night. Mountain farmers became hotel owners, ski instructors, and lift operators. Their children went to tourism schools instead of farming schools. During these peak years, a single winter season could earn a mountain hotel enough money to support a family for the whole year. Austria invested billions in new ski lifts, snow machines, and luxury hotels. We built more than 50,000 kilometers of ski slopes. That's longer than driving around the Earth. Traditional mountain farms didn't disappear. They adapted. Farmers would tend to their cows in the morning and teach skiing in the afternoon. By 2000, Austria's Alps had become the world's most successful mountain tourism region, hosting more winter tourists than Switzerland, France, and Italy combined. Our mountain villages weren't just surviving anymore, they were thriving. But then around 2010, nature started sending us scary warning signs. Remember when skiing was possible from November to April? Now many ski resorts can't open until January. The numbers tell a frightening story. In the last 50 years, our winter season has become shorter by 38 days. That's more than a month of lost business every year. Let's talk about snow, the white gold of our mountains. In the 1970s, you could count on natural snow at 1,200 meters height. Today, that reliable snow line has moved up to 1,500 meters. Imagine pushing everything up 3 Empire State Buildings. This change has hit our lower-lying ski resorts hard. Last year, 60 small ski areas below 1,400 meters couldn't open at all because there wasn't enough snow. Our glaciers are melting faster than ice cream on a hot summer day. Austria has lost 54% of its glacier ice since 1850, but here's the shocking part. Half of that loss happened just in the last 30 years. The famous Pasteur Glacier, once Austria's longest, has shrunk by 1.5 kilometers in just 20 years. That's like losing a chunk of ice as long as 15 football fields. These changes are hitting our wallets hard. In bad snow years like 2023, Ski resorts lose about 1.5 million euros each in a single season. Some shocking numbers. Visitor numbers dropped by 30% in low-lying ski areas since 2017. Hotels that used to be fully booked for 100 days straight now struggle to fill rooms. Super unpredictable too. We now see rain in January and snow in April, exactly when we don't want it. This weird weather meant that 75% of our ski resorts had to use artificial snow last winter. But here's the problem. Making fake snow costs a lot. 1 kilometer of ski slope needs about 30,000 euros worth of artificial snow. Last year alone, Austrian ski resorts spent 300 million euros just making snow. That's more than building 3 luxury hotels. And it's not just about skiing. Warmer winters mean our mountain roads need more repairs, avalanche protection needs to be rebuilt, and insurance costs are going through the roof. The Austrian government estimates that climate change costs our alpine regions about 2 billion euros every year. And this number keeps growing. When the snow disappears, it's not just the ski lifts that stop. Entire mountain communities start falling apart. Let me show you what's really happening in our alpine villages. Jobs are vanishing faster than the snow. 10 years ago, a typical ski resort employed about 100 people during winter. Today, that same resort runs with just 60 workers. In the last 5 years, we've lost 25,000 full-time tourism jobs in our mountain regions. Think about that. It's like a small town disappearing from our workforce. Ski instructors, who once taught for 120 days a season, now barely get 70 days of work. Property prices in mountain towns are on a wild roller coaster ride. Houses in lower ski villages that sold for 500,000 euros in 2015 are now worth only 300,000 euros. Meanwhile, properties in high-altitude resorts like Kitzbühel have doubled in price because everyone wants to be where the snow is still reliable. This means young local families can't afford to stay in their own towns anymore. Our mountain restaurants and hotels are struggling to survive. Last year, 120 traditional mountain huts closed their doors forever. Hotels that have been run by the same families for 3 or 4 generations are now up for sale. The sad truth? 1 in 3 mountain hotels is currently for sale, but nobody wants to buy them. Banks have stopped giving loans to businesses below 1,500 meters because they see it as too risky. Local shops are closing too. When tourists stop coming, everything starts to fall apart. In the last 3 years, 400 small businesses in alpine villages have shut down. Sports shops, bakeries, souvenir stores, all gone. Each closed shop means another family has to leave. And that's the biggest problem. Young people are leaving our mountain towns. In the last decade, 15% of people aged 18 to 30 have moved away from alpine communities. They're heading to big cities like Vienna and Salzburg, where jobs are more reliable. Some villages have lost so many young people that they've had to close their schools. It's like watching the heart being ripped out of our mountain communities. Trying to fix these problems is like climbing a mountain that keeps getting steeper. Let me show you why our ski resorts are struggling to adapt. First, there's the huge cost of making fake snow. One snow machine costs 35,000 euros. That's more than a luxury car, but resorts need hundreds of them. Last winter, the average ski resort spent 3.5 million euros just to make artificial snow. That's 3 times more than they spent 10 years ago. The crazy part? Some days it's so warm that even these expensive machines can't make snow. The energy bills are shocking. Making snow for just 1 hectare, about the size of a football field, uses as much electricity as 130 homes use in a year. With energy prices going up, many small resorts simply can't afford to keep their snow machines running. Last year, energy costs for snowmaking went up by 300% in some places. Keeping everything running safely is another huge headache. When there's less snow, ski lifts need more frequent repairs. Slopes need more work to stay safe. Every year, resorts spend about 40% of their income just fixing and maintaining things. That's double what they spent in 2010. Then there's tough competition from other countries. Switzerland and France are spending billions on high-altitude resorts above 2,000 meters, where snow is more reliable. Austrian resorts, mostly sitting lower, are losing tourists to these higher places. We lost 15% of our international visitors to Swiss resorts just last year. Insurance companies now charge 3 times more to cover ski resorts than they did 5 years ago. Some won't insure lower resorts at all. When a resort can't get insurance, they can't open. It's that simple. Last year, 25 small resorts couldn't open because they couldn't afford or find insurance. What's happening in our mountains isn't just about money. It's about losing a way of life that's been around for hundreds of years. Let me share some heartbreaking changes happening in our mountain communities. Take the Gruber family in Salzburg. They've been running their mountain farm and teaching skiing for 4 generations. Last year, they had to sell their cows and close their ski school. Their children, like many others, have moved to Vienna for office jobs. This story is playing out all over our Alps. In the last 5 years, 300 traditional mountain farming families have given up their way of life. Our mountain culture is disappearing faster than old photographs fade. Traditional skills like alpine cheesemaking, which used to pass from grandparents to grandchildren, are being lost. 10 years ago, we had 500 traditional cheesemakers in our mountains. Today, only 180 remain. Special mountain festivals that brought whole villages together now struggle to find young people to organize them. The numbers are alarming. 40% of people under 30 have left their mountain villages in the last decade. School classes that once had 25 local kids now have just 8 or 10. Village brass bands, a proud tradition for centuries, are shutting down because young musicians have moved away. Last year, 15 traditional mountain bands had to stop playing. This exodus is tearing apart our tight-knit mountain communities. Village meetings that once needed bigger rooms now happen around small tables. Local dialect words for snow and mountain life are being forgotten. As one old farmer said, "We're not just losing snow, we're losing our soul." But our mountain communities aren't giving up without a fight. New ideas and smart solutions are giving us hope. Let me show you what's being done to save our alpine way of life. The Austrian government has launched a big rescue plan, putting 500 million euros into helping mountain regions. This money helps ski resorts buy better snowmaking equipment and supports hotels in creating year-round attractions. Last year, this program saved 50 small mountain businesses from closing. Many resorts are turning to summer tourism. Places like Saalbach now offer mountain biking, hiking trails, and adventure parks. It's working. Summer visitors in alpine regions went up by 40% last year. Hotels that used to close in summer now stay open all year. Technology is helping too. New apps help tourists find snowsure slopes, and smart systems use 40% less energy to make artificial snow. 5 major alpine countries are now working together, sharing weather data and tourist information to help all mountain regions survive. These changes show that while we can't fight nature, we can adapt and find new ways to keep our mountain communities alive. The story of Austria's Alps isn't over. It's just changing. Our mountains have faced challenges before, and they've always adapted. But this time, we all need to help write the next chapter. Right now, smart investors are putting money into new mountain attractions that work in all seasons. Local communities are coming together, creating festivals and events that celebrate mountain life year-round. Young entrepreneurs are starting eco-tourism businesses that don't depend on snow. The future of our Alps might look different, but it can still be bright. Our mountains have been here for millions of years, and with the right choices today, they'll continue supporting Austrian communities for generations to come. The time to act is now. Our alpine heritage is counting on us.